Joining us now is Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys. Ken, it's great to see you as always.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah,
What you didn't see there was Marjorie rocking out.
Exactly.
that's right. That's right. Well, I was inspired. Too scared to join the military. Too dumb to be a cop. You had great lyrics. This whole song. It was terrific. So why are you doing this? Why are you going on Saturday?
You know, I just want to be a part of anything that offers resistance to what's happening now. And as far as the band goes, our legacy has been being about this, as you introduced us, you know, anti-fascist, pro-worker, since our inception in 1996. So if that's who you've been, why in 2026, with what's going on now, would you ever be silent? You know, so, and I understand there's a lot of people who listen to Dropkick Murphys who maybe they weren't around in 96, maybe they don't do a deep dive into what we're about, and they might just listen to Shipping Up to Boston and then be offended that, you know, we talked about their cult leader and they want to leave, and that's their prerogative. But we're who we are for 30 years, and we'll keep doing it. And I think in some ways we're the perfect antagonist to the MAGA movement. We don't like bullies. We have issues with authority ourselves, and you know, if someone tells us not to do something, we're probably going to do it twice as loud as if you didn't say anything. So here we are. We did the first No Kings in April of last year, and then we were on tour for the second one. And you know, we just, like I said, if there's resistance to be offered, we want to take part in it.
When you hear, I know you called out some fellow punk bands, and there's the infamous line that some people say wasn't really uttered by Michael Jordan, but let's say it anyway. You know, Republicans buy sneakers too. You acknowledge, I've seen you in interviews, that you lose fans because of this. How do you determine that's a price you're willing to pay, Ken Casey?
Because of the 30-year track record. It's, you know, we're not the ones that change. A lot of these people who are MAGA now, we're lockstep with our message before this guy came down the escalator, started with his lies, started to divide America with the same old tropes that have been used throughout time of, you know, divide working people so that the billionaires can steal everything out the back door, whether it be immigration or trans or whatever, you know, anything to deflect and to get us taking our eyes off the big picture. So we're confident in saying this is who we are, this is who we've always been. If you're offended now, then that's your prerogative.
How great is this? You know, how great do you see the threat being? And Margie and I say, and I hope people don't think we're being just rhetorical, we're worried that we make it through the next 2 years and 10 months. How great do you see the threat from Trump, Ken Casey?
I mean, it's almost to the point where, like they always talked about, like, you know, flood the zone, right? Where do you even start? And most people just have to, at some point, put their head in the sand. We're once again in foreign wars that nobody wants, that this guy campaigned against, on top of being in foreign wars that are depleting, you know, all our country's resources. Him and his cronies are profiting off it, anywhere from tariffs to being a traitorous insurrectionists. I mean, if this is the trajectory you're on, right, maybe we don't survive 2 years unless people grow a spine on all levels, whether it be musicians, you know, athletes, politicians, to really, like, not take the Merrick Garland, like, you know, we'll just, hopefully everything will work out and we'll take the easy road. No, like, people need to go to jail or this will happen again in another 4 years or 8 years. So,
You know, we talked to you last time you were here about you know, the fan that had the MAGA hat in the crowd of people. But I wonder, like, in your life since, either with friends of yours or family or people that come to see you perform, how you engage with people that are on the other side. What do you? A lot of us wonder what to say to people that are still support Donald Trump.
yeah, it depends on how they engage with me mostly. Like, I can usually tell when someone's so far gone, just save your breath because there's no coming back. And other times, you know, no one likes to have a finger pointed at them. So when you tell someone they're wrong, you know, I just usually like to state the most obvious facts and you know, friends, family, but it all depends. I mean, someone might come at me argumentatively, and depends on how I woke up that day. I might want to go right back at him, or I might go, hey, good for you. You know, like people will say to us a lot at the shows, like, I'm wearing after that video came out, people say, I'm wearing my MAGA hat and I'd like to see you take it off me. And I said, well, be our guest and wear it. You know, we'll all know who you are by the mark of the beast on your head. And you know, that's someone's prerogative. And like I said, I'm human, you know what I mean? So it depends on, some days I want to be a diplomat and some days I don't.
I don't see you as a diplomat, if you know what I mean there, Ken Case. You know, I just don't see it that way. He's nodding. So I know a couple members of your family. Are there other members of your family who are not on board the
God
Ken
bless my
Casey
immediate family is all on the same page.
They are,
That's
okay.
good.
There's no
That's good.
turkeys flying across the dinner table, but yeah, a lot of my friends and stuff I grew up with, you know, have drinking the Kool-Aid, and you know, a lot of them are people who are voting against their own personal best interest too in life, and you know, what can you do?
You know,
You know,
one of them. I'm sorry, Mark.
I was
you
just
go
going to
ahead.
say, I have been stunned so much. We talked about how there was a hesitation to put up that plaque honoring the police officers that fought back the rioting on January 6th, and some of whom died within days of the rally, one the next day, and some by suicide.
And when they eventually put it up, they put it up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and kind of hid it away. But you're doing something with Michael Fanone, one of those police officers who was threatened with his life and really beaten badly on January 6th. What are you doing?
Well, Michael Fanone is a real deal. He was at Dropkick Murphys' very first show in Washington, D.C.
Oh, really?
in 1996.
Oh,
and
my God.
has the picture to prove it. He's an old punk rocker, and he's cut from the same cloth in the sense that, you know, he lived this experience, and he's not going to let people tell him he hasn't. And I love that he's that mirror of shame on all these congressmen that are trying to, you know, cosplay like they're tough guy, blue-collar Americans, when in reality they were running and hiding and looking for protection on that day. So, yeah, Michael being an old punk rocker, we're starting as something called Down for the Cause, which is just like a collective of bands and people that are willing to speak out, because some bands maybe they're afraid to take the leap on their own because they don't want to lose fans, or they don't want the threats of violence. And so we're trying to offer a vehicle that says, well, come in with us. You know, there's strength in numbers, and we also want to be the people that say, like, don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared of. You know, that this is just like keyboard warriors, and if people want to leave, you know, not support your business over this, was your business, if it really hurt your business, was your business all that important in the first place?
Have you gotten threats?
Oh, of course we're getting threats, yeah.
Just for singing?
I don't have any security. I walk around like a normal human being, and you know, you don't listen to the threats. Just, you know, do what you feel is right in your heart, and you know, and I think more and more bands are starting to realize, like, hey man, we better say something now, or we're going to lose the ability to say something.
We're talking to noted diplomat Ken Casey. So in addition to this Down for the Cause thing, which sounds fabulous, some called Home of the Brave. And one of the reasons I bring this up, I hope this is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I love about this is Ken Casey is a leader of an organization that includes one of the most conservative, respected former appeals court judges in the federal court in America, Michael Ludwig, who had the courage to testify in front of Congress against Trump, the former chief of staff to Dick Cheney, Crystal, and those sort of things. What are you hoping to achieve in this coalition there?
Home of the Brave is a similar kind of non-music related thing that's trying to offer a platform for people to tell their stories about how they were personally affected, or how, you know, their experience within government has taught them that it is imperative that you speak out now. So that, like I said, it's a huge collective of anyone from myself and Michael Fanone to people who have been directly victimized by the Doge cuts. A lot of you know, employees that were fearful to speak out, you know, because of retribution, and then lost their jobs anyway, and now they get to tell their story through that.
You know, we talk a lot about people being upset about what's going on with President Trump and not knowing what to do. I mean, obviously, we hope, is going to be a big turnout on Saturday down on Boston Common. I guess there's 3,000 rallies planned around the country. But do you have any thoughts? I mean, is this what can people do? I mean, you're doing something with your band, but any suggestions for the rest of us?
Well, I think you hear a lot of people. I'll sometimes hear, well, what good does gathering on Boston Common do? Like, how does that affect real change? And what I would say is, one, on a positive side, having been to those things, is like, you're reading your phone and you're reading these horrible news stories, and you somewhat feel alone and isolated. What can you do? And then you come together on a day like that, and it charges the battery. You say, oh man, I'm not alone, and you remember that, like, this isn't the minority. The majority of Americans want people to be treated fair, treated well, not be viewed by the world, as the villain. So it recharges the battery in a community sense, but also it just engages people, because if we're ever going to get to the levels where I think we need to get to personally, of like being able to affect a general strike in America to really make change, well, your average person isn't going from the couch to general strike. You got to get them involved along the way in the process, and I feel like the No Kings things are a step in that direction.
You ever you running for something or?
No, I couldn't stand having to when Marty Walsh became mayor, he put me on one of his he put me on the economic development transition
How'd that
team.
go?
I went to one meeting and said, holy Jesus Christ, get me out of here. Too much bureaucracy. You can't say what you really feel,
Before you go, I want to pick up on what Marjorie
too.
just said. Well, before you go, every time we've been trying to promote No Kings, our attitude is we try to promote everything. If people want to rally and be heard, they should do it, regardless of what their point of view is. This really matters if you care about democracy and your neighbors. I take a lot of heat on the radio. I try to be very careful and say, I think this thing is huge and really important. However, and this gets back to your general strike thing, it's not enough. The last No Kings thing was 5 months ago. That was great too. This is going to be bigger, even greater. But unless there is relentlessness, where they don't, the other side, my fear is on Saturday they duck their heads, they live through a horrible day, and then they keep doing horrible, sadistic things the next day. Ultimately, the solution is relentlessness, whether every minute of every day, people like you and people who share your values have to decide they have to speak. Isn't that the only route out of this nightmare?
100%. But once again, people don't have the time, energy, or financial wherewithal to do it every day. That's where the difficulties come. But once again, I think it gets back to engagement, involving people in the process, and inspiring them to take the next step.
You just mentioned general strike. What do you see? What would that be?
Well, I think it's that we haven't even got to the 3.5% threshold that you need. We haven't even got to that level on the No Kings, when you're just saying, come out and stand on a corner for 2 hours.
Yeah,
So
that's what people say
can
topple a government.
right.
Is
So
you
so my thing is, can we get to that level on a one-day protest, and then do we say, now how do we turn that number into being able to say, those same amount of people will agree to not go to work, not go to school, not spend money, and do what really needs to be done to affect people? Because when you see what happened with Jimmy Kimmel and some of the streaming services, that made change, because the Epstein class doesn't, they make decisions based on finances.
Now, I know what people are thinking out there, Ken, before you go. Everybody's saying he should be hosting the show, not Jim. So, want to host the show one day in the next couple
Jim, all I
months?
know is the last time I was on the show with you in person with my tacos, I drove you into retirement off one show.
Maybe. Actually,
that's
was
my
true.
plan.
That is true. That was the end. How about sitting in one day here? Would you do that?
Yeah, hell yeah.
You would, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a deal. Anybody like Ken Casey as a co-host
Yeah,
here? I had a feeling.
a lot of fans.
Ken, I know I speak for Marjorie, and I think everybody, I can't tell you how much we admire and appreciate what you and your bandmates are doing. It is huge, and you've been doing it for decades, and just keep on doing it. It's great.
It's going to be a nice sunny day on Saturday, too. It's a little chilly, but it's going to be nice and sunny. So
And,
we're
and
very
all I
excited.
would say is that, bring a friend, everybody, if you can, entice your neighbor or someone else to come. It's those little things that turn it into the much, much larger amount of people.
Well, thank
Great
you
leader,
so
one of
much
the
for
best
coming
bands
in.
on earth.
Thank you
Ken,
for
it's great
your
to see you.
great
Thank
song.
you.
Am I supposed to say Citizen ICE or Citizen ICE?
Whatever you feel
Whatever
like.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a great song, and I was hysterical reading the lyrics. It was great.